going on, everyone? Kevin here with PureFlow Airdog. Have some exciting news. We're going to be talking about our brand new Airdog 2 5G. This is our 5th generation pump, and we're going to go over some of the features and benefits of this new fuel system. So one of the things that we did was we upgraded our wiring to handle the higher flow rates of some of these pumps that we are releasing. So a quick overview of our updated wiring harness. We did away with the indicator light wiring that was internal to the harness, and we upgraded the wiring from a 14 gauge to a 12 gauge from the battery all the way to the Airdog connector, and we got rid of all the splices, all the ground splices, and we now have everything going back to the battery for the ground. This is a standard 4-pin relay harness. You have your trigger, your power going into the relay, your power coming out of the relay, and your ground. So the biggest difference between this Airdog 2 5G and our older fuel systems is the regulator itself. We went with a diaphragm fuel pressure regulator. Now this regulator is adjustable from 7 to 70 psi. It can be boost compensated and offers higher flow rates at pressure. To achieve this 7 to 70 psi adjustability on these new diaphragm fuel pressure regulators, we have a dual spring set internal to the regulator. A lot of other regulators out on the market, you have to take the cap off and change the spring if you want to get into heavier fuel pressure or anything like that. So I'm going to bring this out here and show how we did that. So it's basically a heavier, smaller spring in the center and a lighter, longer spring on the outside. So your lighter spring is going to be for your lower pressures up to about 15 to 17 psi, and then after that it starts getting into the heavier spring for your higher pressure. So to elaborate on the boost compensation a little bit more, so for higher flowing, higher horsepower applications, sometimes you might see a little bit of a pressure drop. For that, we have our boost compensation port in this regulator. So every pound of boost air going into your regulator is a pound of fuel pressure coming out of the regulator. So for instance, say you have a 1500 horse plus truck and you see about a 5-pound drop under heavy acceleration, you can use an air pressure regulator to adjust the boost air coming from your intake to the regulator 5 pounds to add that 5 pounds back to the fuel pressure regulator. We plan to release these as an add-on soon after the release of the Airdog 2 5G pump itself. Our DF225G, which is replacing our older Model 200s, has shown itself capable of making over 2100 horsepower on a single pump while being boost compensated. With the introduction of our DF225G, we needed larger porting in these pumps. So with the 5G, we have 3/4 16 O-ring boss inlet and outlet fittings, and also a 7/16 return fitting. This 3/4 16 can be adapted up to a -10 on the inlet side. The reason we want to adapt up to a -10 on the inlet side is for our higher flowing 220 gallon per hour pumps to reduce cavitation at the G rotor, which will in turn reduce noise. While on the subject of porting, we did add lubrication ports internally to the pump, which will reduce wear and noise. Just like our previous generation fuel systems, the Airdog 2 5G will use the same OE quality filter set. So now we'll hand it off to CJ, our sales manager, to talk about a new 5G kit that we have planned to be released.
Hey guys, it's CJ at Airdog, and one thing we're very excited to announce is with this new 5G release, this is going to allow us to offer you 165 5Gs for your 2017 and up Ford Power Strokes. This system will still allow the variable fuel pressure as stock, so no tuning, no cutting of factory harnesses, all functions as stock, and we'll showcase that a little bit more for you in the truck. So this 2018 F350 has been my personal take-home vehicle, as well as the vehicle that I tow our toy hauler to all our events. So we do have a lot of miles in testing of this pump, so just know that this was not rushed to market and will work perfect in your application. We're going to do a little bit of driving, show you how our variable fuel pressure works and how it'll function on your vehicle. So one of the key features on this vehicle that we wanted to make sure we retained is the factory venturi. So on these newer vehicles, the tanks are so much larger that quarter tank issues were a lot more prevalent due to fuel slosh of starting and stopping. So with this factory venturi, regardless if you have an inch of fuel or so in the bottom of your fuel tank, the fuel basket will always remain full. So we're always pulling from at least like a 3 or 4 inch deep fuel bowl, so no quarter tank issues, allowing you to run this all the way down to 0 miles till empty, just as stock. So as we spoke earlier, this kit does retain the factory variable fuel pressure. So what that means is From idle to about 1400 RPM, your vehicle is going to be about 50 PSI, and then progressively increase that pressure as the RPM increases to around 70 PSI. So we're going to demonstrate that a little bit for you. We have our fuel pressure gauge here. Right now at idle, you're right at about 50 PSI. So as we start to drive, the fuel pressure is actually going to increase with the RPM. You'll notice on the shifts, it may drop a little bit as the RPMs drop, but it's fully adjustable just as stock. So we can kind of get on it a little bit here and then stop. And you'll be able to see the fuel pressure drop back down to the lower factory fuel pressure setting. So this system works just as your factory does. Actually integrates using the factory wiring harness to control our Airdog system. One thing we do pride ourselves on here at Airdog is making our systems integrate very well into your vehicle. As these trucks are getting more expensive, we don't want you having to cut any wiring, any additional holes in the tank that aren't needed. So this system integrating into your factory wiring harness and keeping your factory inventory, there's nothing like that on the market for these 2017 and up Ford Power Strokes. They're very seamless, no unnecessary modifications needed. So in closing here, guys, this DF165 5G is going to be available to you 1/1/2022. So get a hold of your preferred dealer, get one on the way.